A story of beauty, celebrity, and an alleged murder plot.
An ugly beauty battle. A salon owner is accused of hiring a hitman to murder her business rival.
The skin specialist to the stars, Dawn DeLuise, is accused in a murder for hire plot that sounds like a Hollywood script. Prosecutors believe she tried to hire someone to kill a rival esthetician.
Gabriel Suarez owns Smooth Cheeks. 2 doors down is another esthetician. Catering to celebrities, her business has been here for years.
Cops say Dawn thought her competitor and neighboring salon owner wasn't just stealing her business, but also posting explicit and raunchy Craigslist ads claiming Dawn was seeking a man to fulfill her rape fantasies, even listing her address to direct potential males to her doorstep. Cops say Dawn went into a rage and tried to contact an old friend, a former NFL player, to murder her competition. Cops arrested Dawn and charged her with solicitation of murder.
Today, in an exclusive interview, Dawn DeLuise is speaking out publicly for the very first time since she was vindicated, acquitted of all charges, and released. She is joined by her attorney, Jamon Hicks. Her story has shocking twist. You won't believe what she claims really happened. You have had an interesting couple of years here, starting about 2 years ago.
Yes.
You were charged with solicitation for murder.
Yes.
And solicitation for assault.
Yes.
Of a competitor. Someone that was in the same business, sort of.
Sort of, yes.
And were charged with soliciting someone, a hitman, essentially, to kill Gabriel Suarez. Where was the first time you had a studio where you met Gabriel Suarez?
That was when I was in West Hollywood.
And how did you meet him then?
A hairstylist came to me one day and said, "There's a gentleman at the foot of your stairs who's passing out business cards." Ultimately, it led to a shop that had just opened right across the street. The gentleman that owned it hired an assistant who was Gabriel Suarez.
You were doing like really well, right? You were the facialist to the stars, as people referred to you that way. Who were some of your clients at the time?
Oh goodness. Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Christina Ricci, Alicia Silverstone, Christian Slater, Ted Danson.
Now you've got somebody at the bottom of your stairs trying to poach your clients. Did you have any conversation with him at the time, this Suarez?
No, just what would be reported back to me by my clients, and I saw
just tell
him.
you, okay. She made a new bad boy friend of sorts with a guy named Nick Prugo. Prugo is best known for being the ringleader of the Hollywood Bling Ring, a group of thieves who stole luxury items from celebrities. Now, Dawn says she thought she could partner with him as he tried to extend his 15 minutes of fame in Hollywood. She had no idea that Nick Prugo would be what she claims was the first domino that led to her being tried for murder for hire. Now, explain who Nick Prugo is and how you met him.
Nick Prugo was attached to a series of crimes in the late 2000s that involved robbing homes of celebrities, Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, along with other teens. And it became a story called The Bling Ring, a book, and ultimately a movie. I was good friends with the writer. When I went to meet her for a happy hour, she was ending an interview with him.
You, at some point, decide that you're going to manage his career?
The idea of a reality show came up because he had a parole officer breathing down his neck with some urgency to getting employment right away.
But it fell apart. How did it fall apart?
This was around the same time that Nick began to bring another person to my clinic for skincare, a man named Edward Feinstein. And Nick's behavior began to change, reluctant to go to meetings, wanting advance pay, which was just ridiculous, and I dropped him as a client.
But he's introduced you to Feinstein.
Correct.
And does Feinstein give you information on his behavior?
Yes, he does. And that's where I developed a bit of a camaraderie, if you will, with Feinstein. He began to tell me things that Prugo was actively taking drugs and was hiding out from the parole officer and various things.
Did you trust Feinstein at the time?
Absolutely. Feinstein was generous with tips. Feinstein bought skincare products of mine. Feinstein would bring me a coffee from Starbucks. And usually that type of pattern tends to make me trusting of my clientele.
So when in this relationship with Feinstein does Suarez open this shop essentially next to you?
He officially hung out his shingle and began with clients in July.
But he's doing construction over there.
Yes.
Noisy,
Yes.
irritating.
Oh, yes, very much so.
So you go down there?
No one who was there understood what I was saying, so I had to sort of pantomime, no knocking, and they'd stop for 10 minutes, and it would start back up again.
And eventually you run into him over there.
I came in and I said, can I help you? Because she was in my office, and she's like, oh good, a Mexican that speaks English.
You said I'm having a communication problem. Did you say I'm having a communication problem, or did you say finally a Mexican that speaks English?
No, I said, oh my goodness, good, you speak English, because I haven't been able to explain about the noise. He goes to introduce himself to me, and I said, I know who you are. In 2007, Gabriel Suarez was in my suite looking for a job. And I said, did you see any job postings? If you looked carefully, you saw the note on my landing that said by appointment only, and you're not supposed to be here. And he said, I'm Gabriel Suarez. And I said, I don't have any job openings, and I'm with a client right now. Would you please leave? And that was the end of my experience with him until I encounter him doing construction next door.
So that's the third time you met him, when he was doing
Correct.
construction. Or
Yes.
once you know about him, he's at the bottom of your stairs poaching clients, according
Right.
to you. I'm sure he might deny that if he was here, I don't know. Then you say you encounter him outside your treatment room
Yes.
door, and then again in the Smooth Cheeks suite where he's doing construction down there.
Yes.
Some things started happening to you. You started being harassed. And this began in about July of 13,
Yes, it
if
did.
I understand this right. And about this time, you start having some flat tires, right?
That's correct.
This is on the side of your tire, right? Somebody's slashing your tires. Did you realize at that point this is sabotage? Somebody's doing this?
Yes, it scared me.
This happened like 8 times.
Yes.
Then you start getting texts and calls. You got 1,600 to 2,000 texts and calls between November and February.
That's correct.
And tell me what these texts and calls were about.
Well, they started off harmless enough but strange. Is this Dawn? Or I saw you yesterday. I'm coming over tonight, things like that. And I just thought that they had found the wrong person. Then it started to be photos of my apartment, photos that were photoshopped of the car I owned with extensive damage done to it, photo of the Grim Reaper, photos of the home where my children lived. It might be a photo of my apartment, and a message would say, you forgot to put out your fireplace. I had the feeling at that time that someone was standing at my apartment. The texts kept getting worse. Threats were made about my children. I'm going to teach you a lesson, and we're going to start with that creature Darian. That's my youngest child. He would send men to my business at a certain point looking for sexual services. He used social media and he used free sex sites to just absolutely place me under siege.
And then Craigslist ads posted up,
Yes.
your name, your address, and it says, esthetician to the stars, I want sex, rape fantasy, come to my house, bang on the door, play out the fantasy. And you actually have men come to your house, come to
Yes.
your door, banging on the door. Like 5 men make it to the door. You estimate 35 others texting saying, I'm circling the block, that are coming to play out a rape fantasy with you.
Yes. And when I'd yell through the door, go away, I would watch the handle being jiggled. I didn't know that this person was to be persistent. I didn't know why they were even coming by.
You didn't know about the Craigslist
I
ad
did
at the
not
time.
know.
You just know all of a sudden men are banging on my door
And trying to
get
come in. Correct. And there were flyers on the boulevard with these horribly crude, vulgar Photoshop
And
pictures
what was
of
on
me.
the flyers?
First time is free, Dawn DeLuise, my business address, and they were scattered all along the streets of Santa Monica Boulevard.
And these are all along Santa Monica Boulevard. They're blowing in the wind, and they've actually sent them to people as well.
Yes, via email attachments they did.
Right, they sent them to your church, friends, family members.
Each step of the way in this process, I had one strong confidant and friend that I could rely on, and that was Edward Feinstein. He called me in the morning and he called me at night. How are you? Any more texts? Any more messages? Maybe you should shut your phone off, he finally said.
And the he that's sending these messages in your mind at the time is who?
Gabriel Suarez.
You believe to the core of your soul these are coming from Gabriel Suarez.
Coming up.
Police are making noises that they're going to drop this case. Nobody seems to be stepping up and helping. Did you send a text message that said, we need to lie to these cops?
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
You believe to the core of your soul these are coming from Gabriel Suarez?
Absolutely, because Feinstein would tell me he saw Gabriel Suarez skulking around my car. He saw Gabriel Suarez at the dumpsters behind our building. He saw Gabriel Suarez peeking in our window. I had a hairstylist when you first walked in. There would be an occasion or two where she would text me and say, Gabriel Suarez is standing right here looking in our window, texting and looking around in kind of an inquisitive way. And I would say to her, let me know if it continues and I'll tell the landlord.
At this point, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of texts and calls. Somebody's watching your house, taking pictures, photoshopping damage to your car, and you have this friendship with Feinstein who's telling you, I'm seeing Suarez around this. You believe this because you trust him, he's a friend, and you have a little history with Suarez that
a nuisance.
You don't put it, you'd say, I wouldn't put it past him. You believe this is Suarez. You're confiding in Feinstein what he's doing to you. You're saying, he's driving me nuts. You're venting to Feinstein. Mm-hmm. You're telling him all this. He's saying, well, I saw him at the dumpster. I saw him by your car. I saw him here. I saw him there. He's planted the seed and he's fanning the flames.
Correct.
Then someone that you now believe to be him post something on your parking space there. There's a place there that says reserved for.
Right.
And they changed that in a very lewd way.
They did.
Then Dawn's nightmare escalated. She says her stalker began to target her 2 daughters and ex-husband. Dawn was horrified to see her innocent daughters' faces photoshopped onto pornographic images scattered in the streets. Dawn says knowing her entire family was now involved in this ordeal filled her with even more terror. I want to go inside your head for a minute. Tires are getting slashed, people are banging on your door, all of this vulgar stuff is being said, and here's the daughter posted, loose college girl, come see me at my lovely estate, etc.
And do you know what, Dr. Phill, my girls reached a point where they didn't want to be around me anymore when they were getting this. They said, Mama, if you didn't have a stalker, we wouldn't be having these things done to us. And it was just devastating on so many levels. I felt like I had a virus and everybody I came in contact with was going to catch it.
Did you ever go to the police?
Yes.
How many times?
At least 5. I went 4 times in North Hollywood and 1 time in West Hollywood.
You're saying, I'm being cyber-stalked, I'm being stalked, and what are they telling you in North Hollywood?
I started using the word armor. We only deal with arson, robbery, murder, or rape. Anything else, you're on your own. Basically, hire a private detective, install video cameras. Maybe you should talk to these individuals and call us while they're standing there. Things which were pretty much impossible and improbable for me to do at the moment when I was in fear.
When did you talk to Detective McCauley?
In late February of 2014, a church member who was on the receiving end of one of those emails, which denigrated my daughter, he said, I can help you with this. I have a friend who works at the cybercrime unit to try and help you.
How'd you feel about that?
I felt very, very relieved. I couldn't text Feinstein quick enough to tell him I finally found someone who was going to work the case. And the stalking stopped at that exact moment.
But as you continue your conversations with McCauley, you began to fear that he was running out of steam, that he wasn't going to continue the investigation and the prosecution of this case. Because he was telling you what?
Specifically, he said, my boss told me I have to drop this case if you can't come up with a few people that have seen these stalkings. And I said, well, I've already told you in all our conversation there haven't been any witnesses to this that's going on. And he says, but have you talked to people about it? Maybe they have. Maybe if you talk to them, they'll recall something that they didn't tell you about. This is exactly how the conversation went. And I was terrified that it was going to be dropped. So I parroted those exact words back to my friends who said, well, in that case, I don't want this to start back up. I'll say thus and so and help you.
Did you also send a text message that said, we're going to lie to the police because they just don't seem motivated?
Yes, I did.
You recruited people to lie to the police.
Friends of mine.
To make it look worse than it was. To get them to take action to stop this person.
Yes.
And Macaulay actually talked about that when he was interviewed on 2020. Let's take a look at what he says.
He provided me with texts that seemed to indicate that Miss DeLuise had asked him to lie to me.
Dawn, lying to these damn cops to get them to step up. I'm going to tell them Gabriel was in my apartment last night and is now threatening me with bodily harm.
At that point, he thinks he's dealing with a liar. And he has the text message where you say you have found someone to take him out. Did you or did you not solicit someone to kill this man?
Coming up.
I got even more detailed than some other texts saying, I wish this person would even enter my home and I'd kill him myself. I took it very, very far.
Was your definition of a solution in your mind killing someone? Would that be a solution?
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Tonight's shock in Hollywood as beauty salon owner Dawn DeLuise is held on $1 million bail. Now, she's famous as the skin specialist to the stars. Her client list reads like an A-list Oscar party.
Did you or did you not solicit someone to kill this man?
I did not.
Why do they say you did?
They found texts where I was venting to Edward Feinstein. How I felt during the worst time of it while I was under siege. It was one of those, oh, I could kill this person. I wish I could do it with my own bare hands. I should find someone to take him out. It was that type of venting.
We've all done that. We've all said, oh my God, I could kill that person. It's not what you did. You sent a text to someone that said, I have met someone, I have found someone that can do this deed for me.
Correct.
I found someone who's going to take Gabriel out. His name, Chris Guiley. And he's an ex-Detroit Lions quarterback. He's 6'7", 315 pounds.
Yes.
You had met this person in Big Bear a few weeks earlier.
Yes.
It's just been, the mental anguish I've suffered, I mean, is far more than any type of football injury I've ever had.
Did you discuss it with him?
No, I did not. I told him I had a stalker, but we never talked about any of this.
You didn't actually make an offer to him?
Absolutely not. No.
So he didn't know you were talking about him?
He did not. I got even more detailed than some other texts saying, I wish this person would even enter my home and I'd kill him myself. I took it very, very far in exploding to people. Had I thought for a moment, am I seriously going to commit a crime where I murder someone? Absolutely not.
Was your definition of a solution in your mind killing someone?
No.
Would that be a solution?
No.
But you described it as a solution in a text message.
I did.
The police are making noises that they're going to drop this case. Hundreds and hundreds of these harassing emails are going on. Nobody seems to be stepping up and helping. How did you feel at this point?
I just loved my life. It was a quiet life and it was a simple life, but it was my life and it was perfect. And when I look back, when I'm forced to face these texts that I wrote, Dr. Phill, taken out of context, It does. It makes me look, the way I was described in one article was as a bumbling, vicious fool. And I just didn't know if it was ever going to stop. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. My business partner of 8 years said, I'm leaving. And by the time that happened, I just thought to myself that my business is going to die because she pays me rent.
Did you ever think about talking to Suarez?
I was terrified of him.
Did you ever think about hiring a lawyer or a private detective to go talk to him?
I couldn't afford to. I thought about that many times.
Did you ever harass him back?
Suarez?
Yes.
I do remember one specific occasion. I had to stop Ed Feinstein from throwing a brick through his window. And he was going to take a picture of Suarez and Photoshop it onto a nude body. I remember saying, please don't. This is too close for comfort. I'm going to get caught. And we didn't do that. There were times I wanted to retaliate against him. That's something I kind of went back and forth with Feinstein about.
Did you ever text him that you were going to post a Craigslist ad? Did you ever do it?
No.
Here's what you said. I'm putting together a Craigslist ad directing guys to Gabriel's front door. No need to call first. Just show up and I'll be waiting in bed with a blindfold on. I hate sinking to this sleazy level, but the cops pretty much told me that I should.
Yes.
You said, I found Gabriel's sister on Facebook. Bothering his family might be a way to get at him. And so you're contemplating doing all the things he's doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you?
Because it would have been wrong. I wanted to give him a taste of his own medicine, but I never went beyond venting about it.
Right. And there's no evidence that you ever did anything to harass him. Coming up, a shocking twist. Was Dawn really being stalked by a rival, or was she possibly being set up by a man she trusted with her deepest secrets? That's next.
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Hollywood facialist to the stars, Dawn DeLuise, says she endured months of terrifying harassment. Craigslist ads sending strange men to her door, her face photoshopped on lewd images scattered across the streets, flat tires and menacing calls. At this point, she says she still believed the man behind it all was her rival, Gabriel Suarez. During all of this, she felt like she had one person on her side that she could confide in, her friend Edward Feinstein. That's why she says she texted Feinstein saying she wanted to get rid of Suarez. But according to Dawn, her story began to take a shocking, dark twist that you will not believe. Gabriel Suarez, the man Dawn was so very sure was terrorizing her, barely even knew she existed. Dawn started to wonder if her real stalker was someone much closer, someone she trusted, a man she confided her deepest secrets to. A man she says used every single word she told him against her in a vicious plot to set her up. She claims that man is Edward Feinstein. While Dawn was begging the police for help to stop Suarez from stalking her, her quote friend, Edward Feinstein, was going behind her back and telling detectives Dawn was stalking herself. Detectives say he was the one who ultimately provided them with the text messages they used as evidence against her. So Feinstein goes in to the police and then says she's doing all this to herself to get at Suarez.
Right.
And so the person that you think you're sending in to bolster your case flips and says you're doing all this to yourself.
Yes.
And that you've asked him to lie. And here's the proof, here's her text message. And I'm going to tell you the truth, she's doing all this to herself. Mm-hmm. And she's solicited this guy to murder him. So they come crashing in and arrest you.
It's important to note at this point that Feinstein had tried to get me arrested 3 times prior to this When the flyers were on the boulevard, at one point, he took one to the North Hollywood police and said, "This woman is sending out sex services." On a second time, he called my landlord and said, "I'm someone who found my young son looking at Craigslist ads online that this woman's hosting sex parties. You should evict her." The third time, when he threw flyers in the front of my building, he called and had said, "Why don't you have her arrested?" So by the time he runs into Officer McCauley, he says, "You should have her arrested." And that time he was successful in doing it.
What's his motive?
Whatever it was with his previous victims, Dr. Phill, I don't know. There was not an ill word ever spoken between us. I was professional and kind to him. He became a confidant and a friend. And I just think it's pathological. I think it's sadistic, and I think it's psychotic. And there's a history of this happening with others in the same position of trust.
I'm sure if he was sitting here today, he would deny it.
No, that's not what he'd say.
What would he say?
He'd say I was sitting at his house helping him do it. That was the basis of my arrest. I was stalking myself.
That's what he ultimately told the police.
Correct, yes.
So at this point, they come in and arrest you on the 5th of March for solicitation of murder.
Dawn DeLuise entered a not guilty plea. Prosecutors believe she tried to hire someone to kill a rival esthetician. Investigators say she believed Suarez was cyber stalking her.
At what point in the process did it hit you that it was not Suarez, that it was Feinstein?
I kind of think when Officer McCauley arrested me and he said, "Do you even know why I'm here?" And I said, "No." And I had plenty of time to think about that thereafter when I was in jail, and I said, "Feinstein, that's the person that's been protecting me. But that's why I'm in jail? I didn't understand." And when I finally was able to talk to, I think it was either my daughter or my business partner on the phone, they immediately told Detective McCauley that they never trusted Feinstein from the beginning, but didn't know how to tell me that because he was a close friend, but they thought he was creepy and strange.
So you realized it wasn't Suarez when you were arrested?
Yes.
You go to jail for 10 months, $1 million bail. They offer you plea deals.
Yes, I had a public defender at first, and he was saying to me early on, they just need you to accept a felony, and we can decide what that is later. But the DA's office won't dismiss this case because it's in the media.
Why were they wanting to get out of it at this point?
I think they realized they didn't have enough for a case. That's what I felt.
Why didn't you take a plea deal and go home?
Because I didn't do anything wrong. I was standing my ground, I was under assault, and I knew I was not guilty of a crime.
Coming up, what Edward Feinstein has to say about his involvement.
I'm the one that originally told the police when they contacted me about Dawn's ruse.
We now return to Dr. Phil's interview with the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
So you go to trial.
Yes.
And you're in trial for 17 days. And the jury was out for how long?
Between a half hour and 40 minutes.
Tell me how you felt when that verdict was read.
It was just an absolutely wonderful feeling, and at the core of it, I hadn't lost my self-respect or my dignity, and more than that, my children could now look at me and say, "Mama, you did the right thing."
Feinstein, he's not been convicted of anything here. So at this point, these are all allegations of him doing anything wrong. And in fact, he says that it boggles his mind that you would say these things, that people would be suspect. Here's what he said.
I'm the one that originally told the police when they contacted me about Dawn's ruse. So for me to be named a suspect was just mind-boggling to me.
He has a criminal history, correct? You know that now?
Yes, I do.
And what do you know about that?
Well, I was aware when he came to me through Nick Prugo that he had just gotten out of jail. That's how the two of them met, was in Men's Central Jail. He had gone after a pet groomer in Los Angeles and stolen $100,000 from her. He had embezzled $60,000 from a glass manufacturing business owner up in San Francisco.
Could we agree that you need to pick who you hang out with a little more carefully? I mean, two guys that just got out of jail, and you're going to start getting in business with one of them and picking the other to be your confidant. If you want to know if somebody's going to con you, you need to find out if they've been conning the people they went with before.
I've had some clients over the past tell me that I'm the only one that cared about them, and they've been grateful, and I just... so stupid.
If you don't learn from it, it's just penalty. If you learn from it, it's at least tuition.
That's true. That is true.
It at least becomes an education.
That's a good point.
Instead of just a penalty. And you want to learn from it. Does it mean that you become callous and you don't help people? You do, but you do it in such a way that you don't expose yourself. At this point, you've filed civil suits against the county and some individuals.
Yes.
And you want to hold people accountable for the reckless manner in which you've been prosecuted, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. I feel that I was actually victimized by the system and what happened to me. Had the initial finding out who was stalking me take place and arrest occurred, I'd still have my practice and everything would be fine. I'd still be the person who never had to go through any of this and who never was in trouble with the law. I would be still out there working if, justice had been served where it was due.
Jamon, why do you think they went to trial on this with so little evidence?
Well, I think what happened was that they overcharged the case, number one, but they were already in. They'd given interviews to 2020. There was press on the case. They couldn't appear as though they had made a mistake. I also think they thought that Ms. DeLuise was going to take a plea deal. And I think part of the problem was that the initial investigation, they believed that Ms. DeLuise and Mr. Feinstein were in cahoots. That's what they initially thought. And it backfired because they were never able to connect the dots that they thought that they were going to connect. And it became a premature investigation, and it was a premature arrest on Ms. DeLuise.
Coming up, Dawn's daughter speaks out about her mother's jail time and being a target in the hoax.
Sometimes I still think about it, I'm like, is this my life? Is this real? I just couldn't believe it.
We now return to the Hollywood facialist accused of hiring a hitman.
Let's bring your daughter in and see what her thinking is about all of this.
Hi.
Jane, Dr. Phill, how are you?
Good.
Have a seat next to your mom over here.
Sure.
It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
First off, I want to say I'm so sorry that you've been dragged through all of this for now 2 years. Unbelievable. How did you learn that your mother had been arrested?
Well, she had called from the detention facility, and I thought it was a prank call because that's, what we had been getting. So I didn't pick it up, and it kept ringing, and the voicemail said that it was, Dawn DeLuise calling from the correctional facility.
Did you ever in your wildest dreams think that your mother would be in jail on a murder charge?
No. No, sometimes I still think about it, I'm like, is this my life? Is this real? Like, my mom, of all people, all of the success that she's built up over almost 20 years, and no, I just couldn't believe it when it happened, no.
And when you went to see her in jail, what were those visits like?
I was sad for her, so sad. No one ever deserves to see, their parent behind bars. Sorry. I'll never forget, the first visit, seeing her roots grow out and her weight plummet, and it was jarring.
Were you able to touch each other? Was it through the glass?
It was always through glass, always.
So you couldn't actually touch her?
Never could I touch her, no.
Were you concerned about her safety in jail?
Not really. My mom's a tough cookie. I was worried about her mental health.
Did people try to bully you? Did they try to...
No, they wanted a lot of skincare advice. That's one thing that all women seem to have in common, and I think that as a result of that, I was held in a higher esteem.
Did you have a practice in there? Did you work with people?
I did. I took bran cereal and I mashed it up and I mixed it with a little Neutrogena, and there you have a face scrub. So they were able to
exfoliate. So you took bran cereal.
Yes, and smashed it up and mixed it with a little Neutrogena soap and they were able to exfoliate their skin.
In prison. So
Correct.
You're doing facials
Doing the
in
little
prison.
facials and oh yeah, girl's got to keep up on her appearances no matter where she is.
Why did you lose so much weight?
Stress and the diet isn't nutritional and it's sparse. It's meant to keep people alive but to not really nourish and provide for them. A lot of peanut butter and bologna and starches and whatnot.
You said you made up stuff to do facials. Do you have makeup in there?
We do. As a matter of fact, we came up with one of the best eyeliners ever if you mix it with toothpaste. On the commissary, you can buy a small little eyeliner pencil, which isn't any good. But the toothpaste is like solid, hard tar that they give you. And if you mix it, if you break open that pencil and mix that together, and then you use a sharp, small golf pencil, as you can line your eyes really nicely and add a little mascara, and it lasts quite a long time. It makes you feel better about yourself. You know, you haven't really lost your the way you feel and your self-esteem and your appearance.
You have been resoundingly vindicated here. So that part of this is over. Is the stalking and harassment over? You have been resoundingly vindicated here. So that part of this is over. Is the stalking and harassment over?
No, unfortunately it is not. While I was in jail, my family was targeted several times. We've had someone walk directly into our home looking for whatever they were sent there for.
You said someone walked into your home?
Yes. Actually, my ex-husband, who I'm living with, was home alone, and he heard the front door open, and suddenly in the foyer area appears a strange man. The young man began to apologize and saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. I thought I was coming here to meet someone else."
So this is all continuing on?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It feels like right where we left off. I've thought about moving. I'm like, let me see what my finances look like. I'm being driven out of my own house if I move.
My dad used to say you better spend 5% of your time deciding whether the deal you got's a good deal or a bad deal, and 95% deciding what you're going to do about it. The deal you got's a bad deal. You got victimized here, no question about it. And what you're going to do about it is you're going to put your life back together. You've got a skill set. You're obviously really good at what you do. You don't give your power to some jerk like this to take that away and decide that all of a sudden Dawn's going to get small and take herself out of the game. People respect somebody that stands up for themselves, and you could have pled out on this deal a long time ago, and you didn't do it. And I think you're going to find, you heard me say what huge respect I have for the men and women who serve our country's armed forces. But parents Bill and Marlena say their Marine daughter is now home from the war and fighting a losing battle with drugs. Now, Mom and Dad say that during her first tour of duty, Courtney was severely injured and after surgery became hooked on prescription pain pills, and that led to what they say was an addiction to heroin. Now, Bill and Marlena now say their once happy and proud daughter is an angry, volatile addict who is headed to an early grave if she can't conquer her demons and conquer them soon, because this is unwinding fast. Take a look.
I'm ready to jump off the merry-go-round of insanity. I am at my wit's end, and I don't know what to do anymore to help her. My daughter, Courtney, joined the Marine Corps after 9/11, proudly serving her country. When she got out of the Marine Corps is when things went amok. Her addiction started with opiates because she had shoulder damage from being in the Marine Corps.
When she was in Iraq, Courtney started using pain medicines. Courtney had a problem after a while getting prescription pain medicine from her doctors, so she eventually turned to heroin. The problem is her mother and I can't get on the same page on what should be done. It's been going on for way too long. Courtney's been to detox at least 8 times, but she keeps slipping back into the same pattern.
Courtney was a very happy, energetic, and fun-filled child. She did a little modeling. I just keep thinking of 9 years of this craziness. This is really the end of the road for you. I know Her body will always crave it because heroin is such a wicked drug.
What breaks me more than anything is she's got track lines all up her arms and on her legs.
The sad thing is, Courtney, she went from being an outgoing, funny, beautiful girl to someone who is so volatile. She's just a complete nightmare.
There's so many layers of why she's doing drugs, and I get that.
I want my daughter to stop doing drugs. This is our last chances to reach out and save our daughter.
I don't know how much longer she has on this earth.
Well, Bill has an opinion here, and he says Marlena is an enabler who is standing in the way of Courtney's recovery. Marlena says she cannot turn her back on Courtney the way Bill has.
I believe Courtney cannot get better because Marlena enables her.
I do not like the word enable. Bill has not been around, so he cannot judge me. Bill and I separated when Courtney was 6 months.
My relationship with Courtney is distant.
It is very difficult to communicate with Bill about our daughter Courtney. I'm torn between helping Courtney and him saying I should be doing it in another way.
Marlena wants to blame everybody else for Courtney's problems. It always seems like it's somebody else's fault.
Okay, I'm starting with the two of you without Courtney here, and Courtney is not watching right now. She's not listening because I want to talk about her. I want to talk about her candidly. You say that Marlena is enabling her, that she does everything for Courtney, that she takes her to get drugs, she gives her money, that she does things that keep Courtney from having to stand up and stand on her own 2 feet and do what she needs to do. Is that a fair summary?
That's a fair summary, yes.
Okay. Take your own inventory. Is he right?
As far as getting the drugs and everything, but it wasn't like I was handing out, here you go, here you go, here you go. I mean, I fought it a lot.
But you have given her money when you knew she was going to spend it on drugs.
I gave it to her because she would make up stories and say the drug dealer's coming. I know that. I am totally guilty of it.
That is not an essay question.
I know.
That is not an essay question.
I know. I know.
Look at me.
I know that.
No. Look at me. You have given her money when you knew she was going to spend it on drugs.
Not on heroin, but drugs. Yes, drugs. Yes, for giving it to her. Yes, I enabled her.
Have you driven her to parts of town where you, in fact, were scared for your own safety?
But I didn't know it at the time.
I'm not sure I even want you out here when she comes out here if you are deluding yourself in this way. You know you have driven her to parts of town to see drug dealers. She gets out of your car, gets in another car, gets back in your car, and leaves. What do you think she was doing in there? Playing dominoes?
No, she got drugs, yes.
And you knew that. You took her to a drug deal.
Yes, it's sick, isn't it?
She's getting poison and you're driving her to pick it up.
I know, and that's why I stopped doing it. And shame on me.
Well, you did the best you could at the time.
That was
Look, I'm not here to throw you under the bus.
No,
I'm not saying
I know.
you wouldn't fit nicely, but I'm not here to throw you under the bus. You did what you did at the time, but we're here now. You got to have a different mindset at this point. You're going to bury your daughter if you don't stop doing what you're doing.
I'm sorry.
And you're quick to take her inventory. You're quick to take her inventory, and you have lots of advice for your daughter and lots of criticism for your ex-wife. But if you're so smart, why haven't you got this all figured out?
I didn't really know what to do. I mean, I have advice for Courtney, and we need to do this and do this, but I can't make her do it.
Well, she tells us you think you're Dr. Phill and you're just full of advice, and she doesn't listen to a damn bit of it, but you take her inventory all the time.
And correct about that, yes. I am someone who, you know, again, I try to reach Courtney all different ways. I wrote to the show because I didn't know what else to do. I wanted just this, you know, the opportunity and Marlena and Courtney and to see if we can do something to help our daughter get better.
I'm just trying to help her. I mean, she was a Marine, a tough Marine, and she's not tough anymore. She's very weak. And when she's telling me drug dealers are going to beat her up and they're coming at her, it's like, Oh, yeah, I did. I paid him off just to save her from being
one of the differences.
killed or whatever.
One of the
It's
differences.
easy to say when you're on your side.
Right.
Bill.
One of the differences that we both have, and Courtney knows, I've said this too, her mother wants to believe everything she says, even though she knows quite often is not. I don't believe anything she says. I'm guilty because everything she does, I blame on drugs.
But
I say
whenever
it's drugs,
she
it
says
does
something
that.
truthful,
Well,
you don't even hear it or listen to, or you don't. Bill, I talk to you.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm talking to you, just coming over here, and you've got your little thing in your ear, and you're just, you know, you're in another world. Your life is a vacation. His life is a vacation.
Can we not put aside all this agenda? You think he's a know-it-all. Most common phrase from him about you was enabler, 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 enabler. Know-it-all enabler, know-it-all enabler, know-it-all enabler. Okay, so fine. We're going to find out because Courtney's coming out here, and I don't want these two to waffle, not even a minute. We're going to meet Courtney right after the break.
I could have heroin brought to my house in one phone call. Getting heroin is easier than ordering a pizza. And I can't even function until after I get high.
And later,
You can't keep doing this anymore. We're really at the end of our rope and everything, and you're at the end of your life. I really believe this is the end, Dr. Phill. I think that Courtney played me many times, making up stories so that I would give her money. Courtney said a drug dealer was going to beat her up and was threatening her. I paid him off. I mean, what if it's all a lie? Even though she was crying, you give her some money to pay off a drug dealer and then she goes out and buys it again. How foolish.
Marlena says her beautiful former Marine daughter Courtney has lied to her and dragged her into dangerous neighborhoods.
I have a problem staying clean. Part of the reason that I use drugs is because I have issues dealing with the PTSD. My drug addiction started with the pain pills. They were for a legitimate reason. During my tour in Iraq, a mortar explosion knocked me off this 40-foot wall and I dislocated both my shoulders. When I got out of the Marines is when I started abusing the pain pills. When I couldn't get a prescription, I started using heroin. Getting heroin is easier than ordering a pizza. I could have heroin brought to my house in one phone call. Initially, I snorted it. I started injecting it. In the beginning, it feels really good. It's like having sex and winning the lottery, like at the same time. I've been to detox a lot and slip back into my old lifestyle. I am tired of having to call my drug dealer and I can't even function until after I get high.
Well, Courtney, I'm glad to meet you.
Glad to meet you too.
You a drug addict?
Yeah, I'm always gonna have to live with that. Like, I'm not on drugs now. I'm like newly clean.
And what were you taking?
Mostly heroin.
Until 3-4 days ago.
Like 5 days ago. Today's.
Okay, 5 days ago.
Yeah, not that long ago.
How do you go from everything that you've been described as at different phases in your life to being this wonderful, dynamic, vivacious kid to being this empowered woman in the Marines to sitting before me now addicted to heroin? What, I mean, everybody is looking at this saying, how did this go wrong?
My life has just been it has been a mess for the last several years. And I don't even think I know like what the one thing is that screwed me up. I mean, there was, the moment where heroin was offered to me, but I was already screwed up before that. Does that make sense?
Was there a time in your life that you would have thought, I am not one of those people that would ever put a needle in my arm and shoot heroin in my veins?
Yeah, I think that every day. I told my counselor, I don't even know. I mean, I know how I became this way, but it's still surreal. I cannot believe I'm the same person. And my friends that were in the Marines with me, they don't understand it. They're like, what is wrong with you? Who is this person? And I don't even know. I don't know.
Take me through the first moment, the first time you put that needle in your arm. What did you think at that moment?
Problems solved. No more pain, no more panic attacks, no more feeling any kind of emotion. It was like putting big Band-Aid on everything.
So you didn't think that was a low spot, you thought that was a solution?
In my mind, it's I knew it was a low spot, but when I initially started it, I started snorting it, so I was like, oh, well, at least I'm not one of those people that inject it, because that's really screwed up, as messed up as that thinking is, but just the way it made me feel, it made me think, well, at least I don't feel bad right now, and it just, then I became one of those people that injected it. And even though I said, oh, I'm never going to be like that, and I just kept reaching new bottoms, bottom after bottom. I don't even know if I have a bottom, truthfully.
What is the absolute lowest point that you can think of? Be honest.
Probably when I overdosed and almost died, and I was in a coma for 3 days, and my organs were failing. But even after I woke up, I still went out and I wanted to get high again.
Courtney says one night in particular changed her life forever, and she fears she will never be able to move past it. We're going to talk about that when we come back. When that happened, did it change you?
Yes, profoundly changed me. All the stuff I already thought about myself, people were starting to say out loud.
And later, what are we doing that this consistently happens? It's been at least 4 times.
Well, the implication is that she's putting herself in dangerous situations and you get what you ask for. Courtney says joining the Marines and serving her country was the best, most meaningful time of her life. But during a weekend trip with her fellow Marines, one soldier did the unthinkable and changed her life forever.
Serving in the Marines was the best and the worst time of my life. I was raped my first year in by another Marine. We had a 3-day weekend over Valentine's Day weekend. It was all guys except me and a girlfriend of mine. I wasn't drinking, but my girlfriend had been talking to this guy. He went and got her a drink. She hadn't even finished half the drink and she couldn't even stand up. At this point, the guy who ended up raping me said, I'll help you go back to the hotel. We got her back to the hotel. He ended up coming on to me. I told him no, and he didn't listen. He was placed under arrest. He got a dishonorable discharge and was sentenced to 6 months in the brig. One time when I was in the chow hall, somebody walked up to me and dumped food all over me and called me a whore. I was really distraught. I was really depressed and withdrawn. I wouldn't even go outside because people were always talking about me. I couldn't take it. Being injured in Iraq and the rape definitely led to my drug use. It definitely did not help, that's for sure.
When that happened, did it change you?
Yes. It profoundly changed me.
In what way?
In the way of not ever being able to trust somebody again. Thinking of myself differently. Just like I'm a piece of crap, and a lot of people were saying that. All the stuff I already thought about myself, like people were starting to say out loud.
What did you think about yourself?
I was just angry. It's just so many emotions like mixed into one. I really felt betrayed by the Marine Corps. I feel like I should have at least been offered some sort of counseling, some way to vent it out, let it out.
And y'all were aware this took place, right?
Yes. I just couldn't believe that the counseling wasn't there, and Courtney kept indicating it too. It's just, how are you getting through all this?
And it was after that you were deployed. You went to Iraq.
Shortly after that, yeah.
And how long had you been there when you got blown up? You got blown off a 40-foot wall.
Yeah. Probably 6 months, five or 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And you were on top of a wall in Baghdad?
Yes, it was my job to run telephone wire, to hook up communications for other Marines out in the field. And we just started getting incoming, like mortars being shot at us, and the next thing I know, I was getting canteen water splashed in my face, and I thought I actually got hit with shrapnel because my whole body hurt so bad, but it was actually a couple of broken ribs I had. But they ended up medevacing me to Baghdad for that.
And you had to have surgery?
Eventually, yes. I did not have surgery there, and I wasn't taken back to the United States. I stayed in Baghdad for about a month, I think, and then they sent me back. Mm-hmm. So.
But you ultimately did have surgery?
Yes, I did. 3.
And you had multiple, and then you had pain medication for that?
Yes.
That started the merry-go-round?
Yes.
Pain, seizures, PTSD from rape and war. Coming up, according to Courtney, being raped in the military isn't the only time she's been sexually abused. Bill says his daughter always seems to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and maybe that's why this keeps happening to her. Not sure what that means, but we'll find out when we come back.
Bill questions the other rapes.
I'm confused at how Courtney has managed to get herself in the same type of situation. The fact that someone has been attacked something like 4 times makes me question, how is that even possible? Either she's the unluckiest person in the world, or something is drastically wrong.
Well, Courtney says she confided in her parents about being molested as a child and then raped at least twice as an adult. Now, Marlena says Bill only believes the rape that happened in the Marines because he says it's documented and the others are not. Bill, what's the issue?
Well, what happened, I found out about what happened in the Marine Corps, and then later I found out about something that happened in high school, which I wasn't aware of, and I don't know that her mother was aware of it either until Courtney confided in her. The only thing I was aware of was another time when she was at a hot tub and someone attacked her. Now, no one really went into the details, because I'm going to be honest, as a father, it's not something you sit down and discuss with your daughter. You know, something like this is I don't want to, maybe I'm burying my head in the sand or something, but it's very, very upsetting to me. And I knew that happened late at night. And then shortly after she got out of the Marines, she came and was living with me where I live. And there was an incident 2 o'clock in the morning at a bus stop where she was attacked by somebody. And so my question, or what my concern, and I think I asked Marlena, is what are we doing that this consistently happens? It's been at least 4 times. And the part of that doesn't matter. I always say, whether if you're someone, you're at a fraternity party and you had too many beers, that doesn't justify someone attacking you.
Well, the implication that I'm hearing you make even now is that she's putting herself in dangerous situations and you get what you ask for.
Not so much you get what you ask for, but the fact is dangerous situation, and what's happening in a situation where they involved in drugs and alcohol that put her into the situation, or was she an innocent victim that just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time?
The other 2 rapes, Courtney never told them to me. And the only way that I knew them was out of her military records when they were all released. And then as I was going through some of her journals and read a little bit, she had indicated it, and then later Courtney, I asked her about it, and she did share with me what happened. And the one with the child sexual assault told her that she was going to go to hell if she told anybody. So for years she kept this inside of her, and then when she was raped in the Marine Corps, it was like everything, the shame, the guilt, the ugly, the damaged goods Courtney always says about herself and how much she hates herself, and it just, the 3 sexual abuses that she's had it really destroyed this psyche of this person inside of Courtney, and then being out of the Marine Corps and then escaping all of it, you know, then drugs felt pretty good.
So how do you feel about all of this? I mean,
it's really uncomfortable putting such personal things out there. Kind of always, you know, known my dad feels that way. I can't have a normal conversation with him. When I am talking to him, he just gets this like spacey look on his face, and I know he's not listening to me. He's thinking about what he's gonna say next. And it drives me crazy. It's like how I was interviewed earlier for the show. With him, it's like I'm always being interviewed about to go on the Dr. Phill show.
I really believe this is the end, Dr. Phill. This way is death. You've got to wake up and say, I want to live. My relationship with Courtney is not the same. I think she doesn't like me.
Sometimes I kind of feel like my mother is delusional because she will say really hateful things and she'll say she didn't say it.
The text messages that Courtney sent me are extremely hurtful. I've never had anybody talk to me that way. She called me a moron. I do believe it's the drugs that are talking when I'm being cursed out by Courtney.
Why do the 2 of you have such a combative relationship?
I wouldn't describe our relationship as combative. I mean, honestly, if I wasn't on drugs, I don't think I would say any of the horrible things that I've said to her.
Well, I pulled up some of your text exchanges. They're pretty combative.
And recent, last week.
You had this exchange October 1st. Marlena, are you going to blank because I will literally shut you out of my life? Think before you text me your answer. What are you talking about here?
Detoxing.
Courtney, so what happens next is because of you people thinking you could just keep treating me like... Then here's one on the 7th.
I mean,
Let's
there's a
just look at this
dynamic
one.
going on.
Okay, here's one on the 7th. Listen up, you blanking moron. Dr. Blank said I had to go, and are you aware that I'm being discharged first thing in the morning? I might need surgery, but you wouldn't give a blank, would you? You're an ugly person, you know that? That's charming. Courtney, you started screaming, oh, I knew you would pull this blank. You gotta be blanking kidding me. No, I'm not taking you. Oh, you blanking jerk. But you didn't even ask what was wrong with me. I cried my eyes out.
You want me to explain that?
No, there's more.
I didn't say it.
Courtney, you're either crazy or delusional, and you are a liar. I am not lying. I think our relationship is over for now. I will not deal with this anymore. You have absolutely no shame the way you talk to me. All the names and all the years with you is beyond hurtful. Funny that you're saying that. I'm lying to make myself better because that's what you're doing. Don't text me again. You're bad for my recovery. That's why I say combative.
It's dysfunctional. And she loves and hates me. There's a love-hate relationship. She needs me, she hates me, she loves me, she doesn't want me, she wants me to stop.
Why? I'm just curious if either of you have a view as to why.
Courtney right now, Dr. Phil, is...
No, don't talk about her. Talk about you. She can talk about her. You don't need to tell me about her. You keep telling me about how she feels, what she was, when she was at her low point, how she reasoned to do heroin, what her thinking was, what she was thinking, how she reasoned it out. You're speaking for her, and unless you're a ventriloquist, I don't need you speaking for her. If you want to tell me what you think and feel, tell me what you think and feel. Don't tell me what she thinks and feels.
I don't even know what the... So you're asking me why she's talking to me this way?
No, I'm asking you why you have a combative relationship with your daughter.
I really don't.
You're giving her ultimatums. You're saying our relationship is over. This is done. You're out.
She just asked me for money, Dr. Phil. That's what was before that. $20 she was asking me. And that's why I'm saying I'm done with this. And then she started before that saying, I don't know. No, I'm not going to do it. Screw everybody. And that's why I said what I said. And then she started saying she wasn't going to go to detox. And I'm done with it. She has to get clean of this stuff. We got to start somewhere, Courtney, because you can't keep doing this anymore. We're really at the end of our rope. And everything, and you're at the end of your life. I really believe this is the end, Dr. Phil. She can go this way or this way. This way is death, because her body is beaten to the ground, physically and emotionally, Courtney. You've got to wake up and tear off the clay on your eyes and say, I want to live. Just live a life that is just happy and peaceful. You deserve that.
Marlena says at this point she doesn't know what to do. But what she just said to her daughter were the first authentic words from her heart to her daughter that I've heard since she got here. How refreshing. Can Courtney finally push herself towards a life that gives her a chance to be who she can be? I don't know. We're going to find out. We'll be right back.
My dad thinks he's Dr. Phil, and he is always trying to fix me.
I know I drive my daughter Courtney crazy because I'm always giving her advice on what she should do and how she can fix her problems.
It's extremely irritating to me when he does this.
I use a lot of analogies with Courtney. I told Courtney, you're like a hamster on a wheel. No matter how hard you run, you're not getting anywhere. You're staying in the same place.
It's just unsolicited advice, and it very much pisses me off.
Well, Bill says he turns his phone off at night because he's scared he's going to get the call that says his daughter is dead. Marlena says Courtney is drowning and she cannot watch anymore.
I can't. I try to grab for her, but she doesn't want to grab my hand. That's what I feel.
Why do you think I went to detox and all that?
Yes, Courtney, this is your 7th detox.
I know.
How many times do you detox and say, I don't want to do this anymore?
We go through this, and then the rest of the components don't change. The people, places, and things. I've told Courtney, I use these little things that I say to her, and she is right about a lot of things about me, because it's hard to have a normal conversation with her on the phone. If she does answer my phone calls or texts, it's usually, quite honestly, I think a lot of times she's high, because she's very talkative and on the phone and friendly, but then she brings up something and it kind of puts me on that end of, hey, Courtney, why don't you try this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do something different?
Okay, well, that was then, this is now, and I want to talk to you.
That's messed up. If I'm in a good mood, can't I just be in a good mood? Like, it doesn't have to mean I'm high.
You can't do heroin and then get self-righteous about people being suspicious if you're high.
True.
We did a drug screen on you when you came in today, and you say you're taking a medication. You actually don't have that in your system. So you certainly don't have it at therapeutic levels, so you're not taking enough of it if you're taking it. But you did take, you did test positive for opiates, and I assume this is probably, you're taking something to help you to keep from withdrawal, right?
Yeah, when I was in detox.
Well, you don't get this out of your system as quickly as you think you do.
Okay.
If you leave here today and just go back to your life, where do you think you'll be in a year?
I think in a year, I don't think there'll be too much change if I'm being completely real with myself. I don't really see, after I've been doing heroin for so long, I don't really see some momentous change occurring by next year.
And one of the biggest mistakes people make when they try to get clean from drugs is they try to do that in a singular fashion. They go in and get clean from drugs, and then they come out and they do what we call white knuckling. They're just kind of hanging on. It's like, okay. But everything else that's going on with them, all the psychological issues, all the mental emotional issues, all those things that they were using this to self-medicate for are still bubbling around, still going on in time. If you're ever going to have a chance to, no kidding, reclaim your life, you're going to have to stop going back and forth with these people and finding a reason that he's not fathering right and she's not mothering right and all of these things that you wish they would do differently. And you're going to have to stop allowing these things that have gone on in your life to continue to go on in your life, and you're going to have to face those things head on, and you're going to have to face them simultaneously with getting yourself clean. What you have to do is get into a dual diagnosis treatment program that deals with everything at the same time, that allows you to, no kidding, get your body clean, your brain clean, your life worked out, so you don't need something to self-medicate. So you resolve the issues and you get the coping skills other than biochemical. And anything short of that, your chance of turning this around, your chance of not going to an early grave are getting really, really short odds. And you have to make a decision. You're not going to do that. You have to make a decision. I got one shot here, and I am going to grab on with both hands, and I am prepared to make that available to you. I am prepared as a gift to you to make that resource available. You see this guy right here? This is Brad Lamb right here. He's a certified intervention professional. He's the founder of Breathe Life Healing Centers. Now, they are experts in dual diagnosis clinical care. And he's got Kathleen Murphy sitting right next to him, and she is a nurse. And I asked them to come here today because I want you to go with them. I want you to go to their treatment center from here. I don't want you to pass go. I don't want you to go home. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to go from here with Brad and with Kathleen and put yourself in this treatment center, because this is a time to say, I drew a line in the sand and decided I'm taking my life back, whatever it takes. And when you get through there, you're probably going to go to a sober living. You're probably going to start a new life and a new career and a new direction. Your life a year from now is probably not going to look anything like it looks right now. Brad, can you help her?
You bet. I built Breathe for a person just like you who's struggling with trauma and gets addicted and cannot get out of it, and also for a family like you that's stuck in the drama of it.
I'm offering you this gift. Will you take it?
Yes.
And I want you to come back here and pay this forward. I want you to come back here. You're a leader. You can use your life. And I want you to do it. I want you to do it here. But it starts with you. You do this with you first. Fair enough?
Yes.
Fair enough?
Yes.
All
Thank you so much.
I want to thank all of my guests today, and a special thanks to Brad Lamb and the Breathe of Life Healing Centers and taking care of this brave